In today's video, we're going to be taking a look, like always, at the modeled guidance here. There is a major snowstorm for some areas, not a very widespread one, finishing up actually right now as we speak right here. It's a 983 millibar low pressure center as of this afternoon. Definitely a very intense storm there, but not quite as intense as we expect this next one to be. It is looking quite similar, but definitely different in many different ways. We see that one rolls off the coast innocently, and then we start to see this one develop near the coast of North Carolina and Virginia there. And we're going to see snowfall develop here in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast from this one. And as we can see, that begins to happen in a big way as it's a 992 millibar low pressure center. Extremely heavy snowfall here for areas in northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and then areas throughout New York and New England, including Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and northern Connecticut there. As we just continue things on, we can see, well, we're not going to continue it on yet because there's a major storm moving onshore to California, which will be next in line to bring impacts from coast to coast as we've been seeing a lot of these storms cross the nation. We're going to expect to see that one do the same. We can see that the jet stream pattern overall looks about like this, which is what we've been missing kind of all wintertime long. And finally, by the time we're reaching mid-March, we get a pattern like this. It's very, very odd to see it just happen that late. But look, this heavy snowfall persists. I mean, we're looking at all the way towards 8 p.m. on Tuesday here. We're still seeing heavy snowfall coming down from this system. Also, we see an intensifying storm out west, 987 there over kind of inland portions of Washington. Definitely a very interesting setup. And finally, by the time we're taking a look at 8 p.m. here on Wednesday, that's going to be the 15th, we see the final flurries coming down from that major snowstorm. This will be a great opportunity to just take a look here at, well, let's zoom into this region here. And we're going to just see the total snowfall from this. And really, we're taking a look at the Catskills through the Adirondacks with some heavy amounts, Green Mountains through the Berkshires, and then these areas of hilly southern New Hampshire and northern kind of central Massachusetts there. Potentially 1 to 2 feet in a lot of these areas. We're looking at probably 8 to 10 inches in a lot of the pink areas. So areas like this here. And we can see that a lot of these areas are seeing heavy amounts here. Kind of sporadic, but that's because of the river valleys and then the hilly regions there. You get a lot of that up and down. It's kind of like a roller coaster. We're definitely expecting heavy snowfall from this system. That's no secret here. Now, we're just going to continue this on because there is still so much more to track as well. And as we just continue this on, we see our next system developing across the central United States. And for the blink of an eye, we have the jet stream setup looking like this. This is the general setup that we're seeing. So surging warm air for the east, a little bit of cold air still making its way through the northeast. And then down through the west, we see a lot of this troughing happening. But this is going to be quite brief. We do have heavy snowfall developing through the central plains up into the upper Midwest. And I believe that we do expect a lot of severe weather underneath with this storm, as well as there will be a cold front swinging underneath a lot of what we've seen this winter through into the very early spring. I do expect Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana at this point at about 8 p.m. on Thursday to be taking a look at potential severe weather. The next afternoon here on Friday the 17th, it appears like throughout these areas here, we will be taking a look at potential thunderstorms, especially these deeper south areas. So we'll be watching for that as we have a 987 millibar low pressure center overhead. Very heavy snowfall for a lot of these areas there. And look at the intensity of the jet stream. I've always talked about how you look for that kind of S curve there. And when you see that, that's a very intense sign of just a very strong low. And that is what we're seeing in this case. The warm front is here, the cold front is here, and we see just a very intense look. As things continue on, we see that the cold air kind of isn't able to pace itself with this storm. We do see it transfer potentially into New England, bringing some pretty exclusive snowstorms for some of these areas, but really it's not a very widespread system whatsoever, this kind of storm number 3. And then we get into a little bit of a quieter pattern, but right around the 21st of March here, we're taking a look at a potential new system developing here, bringing snowfall to a lot of those plains and the very deeper plains here, kind of deeper south plains, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, we are seeing potentially thunderstorms and rainfall happening underneath, and that certainly needs to be watched for in a lot of those areas. Now, the total precipitation here, we can tell that there's going to be a ton of precipitation moving onshore to the northwest and even the southwest here. Even the Four Corner states seeing quite a bit of precipitation from these. And then once they reach the plains, we see some storms rising here and some storms sinking underneath and kind of becoming nor'easters, hanging out in there, or kind of moving out to sea. Something like that is what we're taking a look at. So these are the general storm tracks to be watching for over the coming pattern. We see that there is a little bit of a hole in between here where we don't see any storm systems moving through. So these areas will be drier overall if we don't see any of these storms track directly overhead. Looking at under an inch over the next 10 days. So certainly a little bit of a quieter period for some of these areas. This is bound to change in some ways. So this area, this shape, the timing might change. We want to be watching for that, of course. Definitely a very, very interesting pattern we find ourselves in. Once we take a look at this total snowfall here, we can see that the mountainous west there is expecting a lot of snowfall, and it's really the same story throughout the Rockies. And we've been seeing this all winter long. These areas have not struggled as far as snowfall whatsoever. We do see that because of this kind of rising storm through the central plains, we do expect quite large snowfall amounts expected here for a lot of the Great Lakes, upper Midwest, northern plains, all of these areas. This is definitely a very, very interesting situation, and we can see throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, we're seeing plenty of snowfall in all of these areas as well because of those nor'easter systems that we've been lacking all wintertime long, and definitely this is a very, very interesting look as well because, again, we're reaching into the early spring, and now we're seeing the snowfall arrive. It's a very, very peculiar situation, I would say. That's how I would put it. Now, we're going to take a look at this GFS model. We see storm number 1 does pretty much exactly what we see from the European model. We get storm number 2 in a very different way. We see the cold actually able to make its way eastward very quickly. So this is happening around the 18th, whereas we had a much quieter pattern here on the European model. We see that storm system roll through, and then right around that 21st, 22nd time frame, we also get a very intense looking storm here across the central United States, just like what we saw from that European model. So again, this is a very similar situation. And then we get a little bit quieter after that point, with still the cold just pouring into the eastern half of the nation. This is certainly something we need to watch for here. Now, as we take a look at the total snowfall on this model, because I just want to take a peek at this, we can see that really it lines up with that European model. Like I said, we're seeing snowfall throughout these areas in the mountainous west. We're seeing areas throughout the Rockies dealing with this snowfall. And then for those northern plains, we're also seeing heavy snowfall as well as the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. So a pretty well spread around snowfall here throughout from coast to coast, really the United States, seeing snowfall. Everybody's getting their fair share in this upcoming pattern, so I am curious to see what happens with this. Certainly, we're going to be tracking this every single day like we always do, so be sure to subscribe for those daily uploads. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.